I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Donald Trump is absolutely plummeting in hypothetical GOP presidential primary polls. He's getting absolutely crushed by Ron DeSantis. In the most recent poll from USA Today and Suffolk University, Donald Trump is losing by 23 points in the hypothetical GOP presidential primary to Ron DeSantis. And according to this poll, 56% of Republican primary voters would support DeSantis. 33% of Republican primary voters would support Donald Trump. Now, this follows Donald Trump's disastrous existence, but his disastrous announcement that he would be running for office, that he made that announcement in Mar-a-Lago before that crowd that looked like a funeral. I think even the New York Post covered the completely bizarre and completely just deranged announcement. They wrote, "Florida man makes announcement," page 26. That was on the cover of New York Post, which is owned by Rupert Murdoch. Like literally zero energy behind this announcement, zero momentum. And of course, that follows the New York Post's previous cover following the midterm elections, where Americans rejected Trump's extremism and MAGA in general. And this is the cover of the New York Post back in following the midterms. Trumpty Dumpty. Then it said, "Don, who couldn't build the wall, had a great fall. Can all of the GOP's men put the party back together again?" Even Rupert Murdoch is clowning Donald Trump right now. But in addition to clowning Donald Trump right now, Rupert Murdoch is also siding with DeSantis here. And when we want to see how weak Donald Trump is right now, and also just how weird Donald Trump is right now, according to most reports, and just by seeing if Donald Trump ever even leaves Mar-a-Lago, for the past month or so, Donald Trump has barely, if ever, even walked outside of the Mar-a-Lago premises. Maybe he's played golf once or twice, but other than that, he locks himself in the Mar-a-Lago premises, which is a resort that he lives in, which is incredibly weird and odd to begin with. So like as he's walking, there's like weddings being held in his resort home, like bar mitzvahs being held and other events being held. Like that's where he lives. And then he'll like go and interrupt the weddings and no one wants to see him. And I'm like, "Hey, everybody, I'm here. I'm Donald Trump." Like how bizarre and just strange is that? But he hasn't even left the premises. Right now, let's talk about Ron DeSantis. So although Ron DeSantis is crushing Donald Trump in the polls, he is a very, very Trump-like person. He is deranged. He is dangerous. And I want to just highlight something that he did this week that just highlights where Ron DeSantis's priorities are. And so while Democrats and a pro-democracy movement is focused on things like jobs and healthcare and education and protecting the freedoms of people, real freedoms of people, like a freedom of a woman over her body and the freedom of members of the LGBTQ plus community to marry. That's what Democrats are focused on. How do we improve our infrastructure? Focus on bringing jobs here to America. How do we make sure that we have better working conditions here in the United States of America? How do we take care of our military veterans? So Ron DeSantis, in addition to, well, he opposed Biden's infrastructure plans and just opposes everything Biden does. DeSantis runs around with the big checks that he got from the infrastructure bill and then pretends he was the one who supported it and got it. But in addition to that, he held an event today, a roundtable, where he announced one of his major priorities right now for the state of Florida. And that's his announcement that he filed a petition with the Supreme Court of Florida to impanel a grand jury to investigate the wrongdoing of, can you guess what it is? Of vaccines and of people who have supported COVID vaccines. He used his power to petition the Supreme Court to impanel a grand jury to conduct investigations into the wrongdoing of people who supported COVID-19 vaccines that saved millions and millions of lives, because Ron DeSantis is out there spreading COVID disinformation. And in this meeting, I'm going to play for you just a clip or two. Ron DeSantis also came out as strongly against the CDC. He is very anti-CDC and says the CDC, which is supposed to protect Americans' health, we shouldn't even trust any of the reports that they make. Their paper's not worth anything, Ron DeSantis said. Like, how disgraceful can you be? Let me show you this clip. Completely dystopian. Looks like a scene right out of 1984, where DeSantis is with his quack surgeon general, citing people who have no credibility in the medical field at all, and spreading this COVID disinformation. Here's Ron DeSantis's announcement. This is who the GOP likes. Ron DeSantis' announcement of the grand jury to investigate vaccines. Play the clip.
Because in Florida, it is against the law to mislead and to misrepresent, particularly when you're talking about the efficacy of a drug. We see just recently, Florida got $3.2 billion through legal action against those responsible for the opioid crisis. And so it's not like this is something that's unprecedented. So today, I'm announcing a petition with the Supreme Court of Florida to impanel a statewide grand jury to investigate any and all wrongdoing in Florida with respect to COVID-19 vaccines. And we anticipate that we will get the approval for that. That will be something that will be impaneled, most likely in the Tampa Bay area, and that will come with legal processes that will be able to get more information and to bring legal accountability for those who committed misconduct.
Now, here's the clip of Ron DeSantis saying how anti-CDC he is. I guess the CDC too woke for Florida. Play the clip.
I think you've continued to see people in these bureaucracies and in this establishment behave in ways that have totally squandered any type of confidence or goodwill that people would have. And our CDC at this point, anything they put out, you just assume at this point that it's not worth the paper that it's printed on. And so it's not serving a useful function. It's really serving to advance narratives rather than do evidence-based medicine. And so in Florida, the Surgeon General actually has the ability to convene panels of experts to do various things. And so we thought it was important, particularly me talking with other governors, to say, okay, because CDC will say these things, and then people will think, well, because they're saying it, then we have to do it. And maybe not quite as much anymore because people have lost confidence, but you still see it. We had to fight it with the masking in the schools because the school districts were citing CDC as the reason why they wanted to do it. We had to come and overrule that, but it was difficult because they were being put as an authority, and some people were doing that. So other governors and I have talked about the need to have a panel of experts who can counteract nonsense when it's coming out of these institutions, that are not going to just go along with the flow and follow pre-cooked narratives, but will actually do evidence-based analysis. And so in Florida, we're creating what we're calling the Public Health Integrity Committee. It's a committee of expert researchers that will be able to assess recommendations and guidance related to public health and healthcare, but particularly being able to offer critical assessments of things that bureaucracies like the FDA, CDC, and NIH are doing. We know that there's been a lot of faith destroyed in public health. And I think that it's important that we have folks who people actually can rely on when they're looking to answers and when they're looking for guidance on some of these really, really important issues.
And here is the Surgeon General, the quack Surgeon General in Florida, again, spreading all of the COVID disinformation, specifically chosen by DeSantis to spread COVID disinformation. Play the clip.
Do you want to talk about what you found with the data in Florida looking at folks and the myocarditis?
Yeah, it's like, how many different ways do you want to say the same thing? So Joe here, Joseph, Dr. Freeman, we've got two Joes here, just shared their study that basically found that the risk with these mRNA COVID-19 vaccines is just much higher. It's not in the same ballpark as any of the other widely used vaccines.
I mean, that is who the Republicans support right now, Ron DeSantis. And while it is pathetic, and while I relish in Donald Trump's pathetic poll numbers in the GOP primary, let's not forget that the person Trump is losing to is equally as pathetic and deranged and dangerous as Trump. And people go, oh, well, DeSantis is smart, and so he's even more dangerous. He may be more dangerous. He's not smart. DeSantis is not smart. If you ever seen DeSantis debate, or if you ever seen DeSantis be asked questions outside of that thing he does with reporters where he just yells at them, if he actually gives an interview with a legitimate press outlet, which he almost never does, he's like the worst speaker imaginable. He could barely express any points of view without like yelling and screaming at all. And anything he says makes absolutely no sense at all. But this was his priority. So his major priorities in Florida are: Florida is where woke goes to die, that they're attacking the woke. And Florida needs to get rid of the woke, number one. And then the other main policy in Florida, we're going to impanel a grand jury to investigate all of the wrongdoing that took place with people who helped get the vaccines to people. You can't make this up. You can't make this up. That it is the Republicans' political position that these are the issues that they are focused on. It is absurd. It is dangerous. We'll call it out here each and every time on the MeidasTouch Network. Hit the subscribe button. We're on our way to 1 million subscribers thanks to your support. And in addition, check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Become a patron. Exclusive membership at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. You will love the content that you could only get on patreon.com/MeidasTouch, but most importantly, help grow this independent media platform. We are not funded by any outside investors, so let's grow this thing together. Until next time, I'm Ben Meiselas.
Our blue wall stopped the red wave and election deniers got denied election. That's why we're celebrating with the new Democracy Prevails team. We've got lots of work to do, but we should all be proud that when democracy was tested, democracy prevailed. You've earned this. Don't wait. Get yours right now at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.